tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Project Runway's After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. I'm your host, Vivian Adaobi, and I'm here with my lovely co-host,
Michelle Uberreste.
And where can they find you, Michelle?
On Twitter and Instagram at Uberreste.
Awesome, and you guys can always follow me at VibaciouslyViv on Twitter and Instagram. But we have a really big show to recap for you guys tonight. You know, it kind of was a surprise how many people were cut this episode, how many people left the episode this week. And that started off at the top of the show.
Yeah.
So what did you think going in? You know, they get the challenge. We're going to get to the challenge, but I actually want to get to this part first because we have a member who decides to leave on his own will, Jake, because his dog is sick and he's dying, and he is very attached to his dog because he said his dog was there with him when his parents were dying. So he chooses to leave the competition and go home to his pooch.
Yeah, it was really sad, and I can relate. I think for like a lot of people our age, you know, pets don't live as long as us, and a lot of us grew up with them and went through a whole lot together, and it was, you could tell like he was having a really hard time making that decision, but I think, you know, he did what he had to do, and I think it was a graceful way to exit.
Right.
And it was of his own volition, so I think, you know, it was tough, but I think he made the right decision for himself and put things in perspective and did what he had to do.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned while we were watching the show, which is such a great point too, is that since it was of his own will, people aren't going to look at it negatively, like he made an ugly piece or something bad happened competition-wise. He's kind of bowing out gracefully with all of the dignity and respect that he could have ever wished for.
Right. I think it's tough anytime, you know, you get kicked off the show, because either you left and you think you did something awesome, and you may have or you may have not, or you're really kind of ashamed of like what you did and you question it and you just, you know. So I think we saw some cool things from Jake. He got to show, you know, some of his talent on the show, and then, you know, unfortunately life happens.
Right, life happens, and it's really important to remember that when you're on the show, which you explained to me, you're pretty much cut off from society, from everyone, including your loved ones and people you really care about.
Yeah, and it's tough because you're kind of thrown into this whole world with these strangers who you bond with really quickly. But yeah, you're not with your family, you're not with your friends, you're literally just doing the show day and night. So it's tough, and that probably just came as a shock to him. I don't know if he was expecting it when he went on the show, or if they had any clue. I don't know what the circumstances were, but you know, it's unfortunate, but you know, we wish Jake all the best.
Yeah, we wish you the best. Thankful for the contributions that we saw on the runway from him.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, he didn't necessarily look like he was going to be a front runner, especially towards the end of his journey. So it might have been smarter, like you mentioned earlier, for him to leave while you're still doing somewhat well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so he leaves pretty early on in the competition, but not until after the challenge takes place. So they are back in their living quarters, and they have these big boom boxes, which are kind of funny looking. Haven't seen those in a while. And I guess they got the cassettes, and they play the cassettes, and that's where they were told to go to the junkyard for their big, awesome challenge of unconventional materials, which, of course, makes sense to go dumpster diving.
Yeah, and they just show up, and there's graffiti, and they get shopping carts with their name on it, so they have to.
Cute, a little personalization.
Yeah. And one of them was like a little crooked, and so the designers are like, oh no.
You could see it on their faces. They were not really in the mood.
I just love unconventional challenges, though. I think it's really, it is a challenge. And for a lot of the designers, it's not something you do. If you work, in a corporate job, you never do it. Even like if you work at home, they're used to working with fabrics and materials, and
Right.
but I think it can show a lot of creativity and bring out the potential in a lot of the designers.
Right.
It can make or break you.
Definitely, literally make or break you,
Yeah.
because these materials that they were showing, I started to list what some of the materials that they saw in the junkyard. They had VHS tapes, circuit boards, floppy disks, which I don't know people who ever use those regularly.
Oh, I totally did. Yeah.
Well, I think that stage of life ended like end of the 90s.
Yeah.
Kind of. Mouse pads, CDs, tubing, a Rolodex, which I actually still use Rolodexes. I think they're useful. And vinyl records.
And lots of wires.
Yes, lots and lots of wires, which we end up seeing on the runway too. But it was very interesting, not really easy to ply material that they were supposed to be diving in the dumpsters for.
Yeah, it's really tough too, because you're like, you have no idea what the challenge is.
Mm-hmm.
You walk up and you're like, oh, okay, I have 30 seconds to grab as much stuff as I can, and there's not a lot of time to think about what your strategy is going to be or what's going to be useful or what you
Right.
could use it for. You literally just like go on gut instinct, like, I like this, I'm gravitating towards this. Like, I have no idea how I'm going to use it or glue it or sew it. You have no idea. So
Just going on an inspiration kind of.
yeah, but I think it's a really good like jumping off point, because if you're going on instinct, that's kind of how you should be working.
Right. And I feel like one person who pretty much encapsulated that whole idea was Ashley, because when she was, looking through the dumpster trying to find her materials, she really gravitated towards the Polaroids,
Yeah.
which we'll see later on was a big part of her piece. But she was even asking around for Polaroids. Like, that was what she gravitated towards. And I was confused at first, because I'm like, what can you do with Polaroids?
Yeah.
Like, the other stuff, I could see how those are outdated technology and you can kind of find some way to make them modern. But Polaroids don't feel that outdated to me. It's very trendy to go to parties and, see
Maybe
people whip out the
but
Polaroid.
but it's not like something that people normally, use professionally anymore. But
Unless you're Taylor Swift.
Sure.
every Taylor Swift party has a Polaroid booth. So, or if you're going to like Soho House, for people who aren't familiar, those are kind of exclusive, members-only clubs, lounges where the rich and the famous can enjoy each other's company without people using their cell phones to take selfies or pictures.
But it's a novelty.
Right.
At the end of the day. So, I mean, whatever. That's whatever their choice was to put in the dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, it's interesting how each designer kind of just gravitates towards certain things. And there was a lot of wires and a lot of people grabbing wires. And I probably would have grabbed some wires too. But I think it gets to be a tricky construction with a lot of wires.
Especially when you don't really have a vision at all, because they didn't really have a moment to sit and think, what could I possibly do that's, creating something that's going to be modern, when you have like 30 seconds to just be digging.
Yeah, and I think that's the easy route too. There's always like an easy route when there's like one of these unconventional challenges, and there's always like half of the designers that choose the easy route thing. But I think the more successful pieces are the ones where they went for something a little weirder.
Definitely, because you could see that later on with Kelly and the tubing, because I didn't even think she would be able to break it down, the pieces of the tubing, as much as she was able to.
She grabbed these two pieces of like aluminum, like
Right.
and I'm just thinking like she's gonna make sleeves out of them and it's gonna look like a robot.
That it was exactly my thought train too. I didn't see anything really sophisticated or
Yeah,
you
and
know.
she's like, I'm gonna make a whole dress out of this, and I was like, okay, you do that.
I mean, Kelly's always a character to the T, so I knew it would be interesting, just didn't know how, tasteful it can end up.
Right, but I think at least she has going for her, like, she's very creative. She always has ideas, and that's, you know, like the judges, you know, tell her, okay, you need to edit, you need to dial it back. But if you have no volume to begin with, you can't do that. So she has, you know, so much to work from, whereas a lot of the other designers, they're like, I can't think of anything. What should I do? And it's like, well, should you be in a creative
field? Yeah. And one person who has a lot of creativity is Swapnil. He's come up with some really great pieces in the past, so he totally should have destroyed this challenge. And throughout the episode, it just kind of, we see some ebbing and flowing. Yeah, a lot of fizzling too. So they get their materials and they're told that they have one day, and then they head to the workroom, and I feel like everyone for a while had just this designer's block that you mentioned too.
Yeah, especially Swapnil. I mean, you know, maybe it's the editing. There's always that. But it just seemed like he was taking a million smoke breaks, kind of sitting around, not working on his piece. And it's like a one-day challenge for unconventional materials.
And he doesn't have even slightly conventional materials to work with.
Right, so you want to use like every minute you have. I mean, I don't care if I'm addicted to cigarettes. I'm not going outside. You know, this is kind of, you're the envy of so many designers on the planet that you even got cast on the show. Like, you don't really want to waste any of that opportunity if you have, you know, especially the potential that Swapnil has.
Right.
It seems so easy for him just to come up with amazing things and then execute them perfectly. So, you know. Oh, and then...
Oh, yeah, and then he let his strategy out, for one.
Tells Candace, I'm only working at 60, maybe 80%. Like, I'm sorry. If you have the opportunity to go on a show like this, that, to me...
It's a cop-out. Why are you trying to be safe all the time?
You don't know when you're going to go home for what. So don't you want to show your absolute best to the world, like, every single time you have a chance?
Right, exactly. It's a competition, Swapnil. Where are you?
Quit slacking. I mean...
And then, of course, why would you even... You don't tell people your strategy. You don't,
you
know...
why would you tell someone that on camera?
Especially someone like Candace, who is actually a really great designer. And
she's your competition.
Your competition. And you can tell she was getting a bit irritated by what he was saying, because she's obviously putting in all of her work and all of her effort into all of her designs.
Yeah.
And then Swapnil over here is maxing and relaxing, and he's been coasting by, essentially.
Yeah. I was really surprised, not just about his work ethic, but what he kind of came up with, because we've seen really cool ideas, you know, come out of him before, and this was so confusing to me. I didn't see any idea there. It was just kind of like, oh, here's some stuff.
Yeah, let's make it a little structural.
Yeah,
he just seems so lazy this episode. Yeah. Swapnil has been one of my favorites. You're still one of my favorite designers on the show, but he just seems so lazy and lackadaisical and like mind in space. I was waiting for him to just bust out this huge, elaborate, constructive idea that was going to wow us from the moment he started on the mannequin, and then he just keeps leaving for smoke breaks. He's hanging out. He's not doing what he's supposed to do on the show.
And I mean, he had a really cool sketch when they showed his sketch, and it seemed a little more like it made sense. Like it was something designed and not just slapped onto like some muslin. So I don't know if he got inside of his own head.
Maybe.
I don't know if he was just like over it, tired. I don't know.
Whatever emotions he was going through. But one person who was also going through a similar situation was Lindsay. Because, I mean, she's as conventional as... She's the definition of conventional as far as the show goes. And so having these unconventional materials, it was obvious that she was struggling. She was admitting that she was having a little bit of, design issues.
But I feel like it's that way every episode. Like, she's just a little bit, like, needs some confidence. She's a little bit questioning. I don't feel a solid like personality come out of her, or a solid design. Like she has a look, but I don't feel like if you saw her pieces out in public, you would know that it's her.
I can agree with that. Well, unless they look like a grandma.
But even so,
she has a kind of grandma feel to some of her clothing.
She does have a look, but I feel like if you put all her garments together,
Right.
They
There's
could
not
have
like a
been
specific.
Yeah, it's she needs to like really focus on who she wants to be as a designer.
Right. And another person, perfect segues we have going on here, is Ashley. She was second guessing every single moment of her time in the workroom. Every single piece, even though she had this brilliant thought process with the dress, like, you know, I have these Polaroids, I'm going to break them and the chemicals. I was like, when did you become a chemist, Ashley? Over here, combusting materials and stuff.
I mean, I think on one hand, it's good that artists stay humble. I mean, everyone should stay humble. But I feel like because of her past, she's got that insecurity, and it's totally misplaced. And, you know, she's so talented. I definitely place her in the top of this group. And her process is the exact... You know, it's a template for how you should go into the show and, like, create things. You have to actually sit down and think about what you're doing. Anytime there's a creative process, you're sitting down and thinking about...
What's next? What should I do? What feels comfortable?
Yeah, and I mean, it came from somewhere totally organic from within, and it produced lovely work.
Right.
And I think it's always because of, you know, it's like Swapno. What was his process? Oh, I don't care today. Like, and then
it's like he mentally checked out, but she was focused the whole time.
But you always see it. It's always evident in their work in the final runway.
Definitely. And sometimes I want to just hug Ashley and be like, girl, you've won so many challenges. What are you doubting yourself for? Because she's definitely a front runner, even just based on the amount of wins she's had. I feel like that should have given her enough confidence going in. But, I mean, we all have things we struggle with.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, towards the end we see happier, you know, stuff coming out from her decision to use the Polaroids. So hopefully she will get the confidence boost she needs. Some other stuff that was interesting in the workroom was how much hammering. Oh my gosh. It seemed everyone had a hammer in this episode, just going to town, even Swapno bopping his head to the beat of the hammering. It was kind of interesting.
It's pretty nerve-wracking because when you're in the workroom, there's like no music. No, it's like super duper quiet and awkward like the whole time. So then you have like someone like next to you like hammering stuff. It really affects, like, you can't think.
I can imagine. I can't do that. I can't even work like that. I need some sort of noise, but you know, on purpose noise, not just the hammering.
Right. You can just hammer your own music, I guess.
Oh yeah, hammer to the beat.
Yeah.
And it was interesting watching all of the different things that they used to manipulate the materials, the hammers, the glue guns, just all the different stuff they had to use, the scissors to cut pipes and things like that. I almost felt like the contestants who are moms would be at an advantage because if they're moms, hopefully, like, they probably have kids that they've done arts and crafts with. So maybe they have a lot of experience with, you know, some of the tools that they use.
I don't know, that hot glue scares me every time I see it on unconventional challenges. I never used hot glue because it's so scary because you spend, you know, a day or two or whatever you get on your challenge and then you're like thinking every second, is something going to fall off of my dress?
Oh gosh, the biggest fear.
On the runway. And, you know, you're so nerve-wracked. You don't even know if you're on the top, the bottom, and all you're thinking is, please, my dress just needs to stay together.
Just make it through the runway.
Just make it through the runway, and then whatever after that. But
right, because there was a lot of hot gluing going on. For instance, on Edmund's dress, with all of the keys he used.
Yeah.
So, talking about Edmund's dress, what did you think? What were your first thoughts when you were seeing people create things in the workroom prior to Tim Gunn coming in? Because I was kind of nervous for everyone.
I saw a definite ideas starting to brew in people's minds, but yeah, it was. I felt like there wasn't enough work done, and a one-day unconventional challenge scares me. That is not enough time to even make a decent, just regular dress. So you're trying to be creative, trying to use these weird materials, trying to keep it together, and then trying to make it beautiful and look, you know, easy and wearable. And it's like literally next to impossible. So, I mean, it was when Tim came in, you just think like, how much did the really have left to do in the workroom.
Right, except for Joseph. He pretty much had his dress together within the first amount of time that they had. He did the mouse pads together with the blue and black. It wasn't extremely elaborate. It was kind of really simple, especially using mouse pads as material. But when they walked out at the end of the night, he was probably the only one close to done, if not already done.
Yeah, it was even scarier at the end of the night.
I
would not want to go home that night and just be dreaming about how much work you have to do when you get up in 4 hours.
In 4 hours, the stress levels.
Yes.
I'm trying to see if there was anything else that was pretty interesting. One thing, Candace's dress. That was a very strong look she had going, and I just kept thinking when she was putting the pieces together, I just want to go get some licorice. Like, I just want some candy now, because it looked like the black licorice going on.
Totally, yeah. And it's so work intensive when you're basically covering the entire dress with wires, and again, praying they're gonna like not unstick from your dress.
And stay together. Jeez, it was a tough one there. So Tim Gunn came in, of course, and talked to all the designers. And normally we have a Tim Gunn, phrase of the week, but he didn't really give us. He wasn't on his P's and Q's as far as the quirkiness this week. But he did give us a word, palette, which you can explain because I'm still trying to figure out what it means.
Paillettes are basically like a sequin or a bead or something shiny that's like a treatment to a fabric.
Okay.
So I think what he was trying to tell her is like, oh, you should make this a dangly, like, beaded on the dress, when she was really like just making the whole thing out of it. So.
Right, and this is in reference to Kelly. Mm-hmm. Okay, see, Project Runway is educating us, teaching us what we should know. And so, they come in, the models come in, there's some fit issues with a lot of the contestants, specifically Joe, Ashley, and Swapnil. Tons of fit issues, but they get it together, and we can start the runway rundown soon, because there was I know I had a ton of notes, hence why I have like 3 papers on my desk. Like notes galore for this one. And
there's a lot to say.
Right. And part of why we have so many notes is because you all have been commenting on the videos online, through YouTube, which thank you so much. Please continue to subscribe and to comment and to rate YouTube, iTunes, all of that, so we can know what you guys want and how we should adjust the show to make it more enjoyable for you. And one thing that we saw in the comments is that you want us to give more detailed analysis of the dresses. So you'll definitely see that in this episode and in future episodes to come. So thanks for the advice, and keep it coming. We love tips to make this more fun for everyone. So the first dress we have going on here is Swapnil's. What was your first thoughts?
So many thoughts at one time. This is like, like at home, I have all these things plugged into my computer, and underneath there's like all these wires.
Oh, yeah.
And my cat will go in there and like roll around in them.
Oh my gosh.
And this is what that just looks like. She just went and rolled around, except it's not a cat. She's like a stripper.
Oh gosh.
And she just like shows up and like rolls around in some like computer cords. It's like the skirt is way too short.
Definitely.
And I see the fantasy, like the whimsy that he was kind of going for, the movement, but it's not. It's like not.
Yeah,
it's
literally.
It's not well, and I feel like Swapnil expected so much more.
Yes.
This was defeatist.
He gave up.
Yeah.
He gave up halfway through. I was thinking the same thing as far as, where's the rest of the dress? Where's the rest of the outfit? Where's the finished look, the idea? At the top, I almost felt like those were like tree branches going in the wind. Like that was maybe the idea he had. But otherwise, it looked like someone broke into Microsoft and went ham.
Yeah.
Which, was not as cute as what we would expect from Swapnil. What else did I say for him? I also didn't think this was ambitious enough. He looked like he started with ambition, and then he just said,
was like, I'm over it.
Time to go for smoke, and just left with this. And also the skirt, which was made of muslin, which Tim Gunn warned him, that's not part of the challenge.
Not only that, but like it doesn't look tasteful. It doesn't have a good proportion with the rest of the dress. I mean, I feel what you're feeling with the tree branches, but like when I look at a beautiful painting of a tree with like roots and crazy branches and stuff, there's something also still ordered about it.
Yeah.
And like here's a branch, here's a leaf, and this is just like, I just threw this on here and then, draped it around the girl and then sent her out on the runway. And, I feel like it could have been something cool and structural like that. And if he would have taken a bit more time to actually sculpt this, it could have been like amazing.
Right. Especially with the extra materials that he kind of showed to Tim Gunn, saying that he would probably use this to complete the skirt, which he didn't because he was out smoking. Always.
He could have even taken these wires and done like a little kind of a puffy skirt and covered more of it and had some kind of structure and shape to it. I feel like there's nowhere for your eye to go.
Right. Except maybe to her boobs. There was a lot of cleavage going on in this one. So swap, no, we expect more. So now we're on to the next dress, which this one came to us from Joseph, and he was attempting to be more sexy. Did you think he achieved the sexiness?
No. I mean, it doesn't look matronly, but it's not feeling expensive. It's not feeling, I don't feel anything good about this, really. I like the mix of the colors.
Right.
And it's kind of got like a mod feeling to it. I feel like if it was a bit more finished looking, like I feel like he just kind of glued the mouse pads on top of the fabric, glued the wires on top, and then called it a day. And it's like not only is it ill-fitting, it's like not finished well.
Right.
So it looks really just like a mess.
It's not polished at all. Even at the bottom, you can't really see it in the picture, but in the show, which I know you guys watched, you can see that even the other contestants were talking about how at the front he has dangling wires that are cut off, and it's kind of like a really weird placement.
Really weird reference. And in addition to that, I didn't feel any creativity. I felt like he was focusing more on like, oh, I heard the judges say I need to make a sexy dress, so that's what I'm going to try to do. No, this is like an unconventional materials challenge where you can do whatever you want. You can do avant-garde, you can do cocktail, you can do whatever you want. And when you look at what the other contestants were making, they were totally going out of the box. This, like,
taking
you
risks.
could make this dress from stuff at Mood.
Exactly.
So I don't want to see that.
I can make that dress out of my bed sheet, and it would probably come out looking a lot better. I was, kind of disappointed with him. But at the same time, I could see that he was making an effort to go more sexy, because this is definitely a leap for him as far as, form-fitting and showing skin.
But here's the thing. He doesn't make sexy clothes. That's not who he is. So, yes, you want to be a little less matronly or you want to take advice, but you can't go and jump into doing something that you're not familiar with. Because you're probably not going to succeed on the first try.
Which he didn't, unfortunately.
Some of the things he's made in the past, at least they looked expensive. They looked sophisticated. Even though, it was for an older customer, at least I could look at that and appreciate it. This, I feel like,
I don't know anyone who would buy it.
And I feel really bad for Joseph, because I feel like he just got lost.
Can't please everybody, Joseph, sadly. And so now we're on to this one, which came to us from Edmund. And this one achieved a lot of sexiness, a lot of sex appeal, and was a very good use of the materials, a very good use, even down to the clutch, which he created. For this one, I was super excited because it felt like something I would see on a red carpet, like at the Grammys or some funky, more loose award show. She had great cleavage going on, but it wasn't too much. It wasn't too much cleavage either. And he had the keyboard pieces, which those were actually my favorite part on the runway. Later on, when the judges were looking at it,
again, it's that hot glue.
Yeah.
Gets you every time.
He got him. But my favorite part actually was the fringe shoulders, because fringe is so in right now. It's taking over New York Fashion Week. Fringe is everywhere. And it was all over this dress.
Yeah, I mean, it's really powerful. It's really fierce and strong. And I like that I like how he proportioned it So a lot of times when you have like a fierce, strong look, like from, you know, Candace or somebody, it's always super tight. Everything has to be tight. And I like that he kind of added, you know, the skirt. It balances out the strong shoulders.
Right.
I mean, this isn't even a strong shoulder. This is like beyond that.
Yeah.
So it would take a lot of guts to wear, I think. And I love the idea that he made the clutch. It probably took him like all of 10 seconds, but the judges love that. And it's like a little bit of thoughtfulness put in, and I like that, you know, it added a little bit of the color. And, you know, on the dress, I love the shiny versus matte. It does feel like there's a couple more elements that need to be there, because then you have the fringe and the shoulder and the plunging and the, you know, shiny, and it's like, it's a lot. And I like a lot usually, but I feel like there's one too many things here, maybe.
Like he should have scaled back on one thing or the other. Okay, I see where you're going with that one.
Maybe he could have just lost the keys, but then I guess he would have no...
Yeah, the keys were like the big, this is unconventional.
Just a different treatment. You know, I feel like it was kind of like a mosaic type thing going on, but I feel like I could have been more thoughtful or maybe use a different material. But the silhouette's good, and...
Well, yeah, he killed it with the silhouette.
Yeah.
She has the smallest waist ever in this dress. So, you know, Edmund, you want to send it my way, just fix the keys first. Then onto this flirty number from Ashley. This is one of my favorites. I love it. Ashley is so my style. But this was the piece with the Polaroids and the chemicals, and the structure of the skirt was my absolute favorite. So whimsical and flirty and fun. And the fact that it fit the model so well just shows how great of a designer that Ashley is, because she can design well, but she can also construct it to look well and look amazing, which she did with this dress.
I mean, it's literally impossible to make something fit that's made out of Polaroids. I was like blown away when I was watching her. I was like, I cannot believe it. It's like molded to her body. I thought this was just so imaginative, and the Polaroids give me this kind of weird nostalgic feeling. There's so many possibilities. Like when you look at a piece of art and you're like, oh, I'm interpreting it this way, and someone else interprets it another way. This is how I feel about that, because like when people look at photos, it's about like memories or fun things or sad things, and there could be so many things that this could mean to someone, and it's so much more than a dress. Like, it has meaning behind it.
Yeah, oh my gosh, she could make a whole business of making customized Polaroid dresses. Customized memories for your dress. That's a business pitch. We should.
I mean, that would be awesome.
Right.
Even just like things from her childhood or something. Like, I bet she could just sell the crap out of that.
Yeah. Good job, Ashley. Go you, because that was fantastic. And it looks so good against the model skin, too. Had to comment on that. But now we're moving on to Lindsay's creation. And hers was kind of lackluster to me, even though she attempted some shine with the skirt. I was just like, come on, girl. Really? Everyone is really, you know, going out of the box with color and shape and materials. And it was so simple. So simple, but not even sophisticated simple. Just kind of bland.
I had really high hopes for this in the beginning when I was looking at it in the workroom, because she kind of created this white texture pattern on top of the bodice with the white keys.
Right.
And it was looking really cool, and then like she added this fluffy skirt, and now it looks like a flower girl dress.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Like the bell and the little thing looks like a bow, and I'm like, you could throw this like on a 5-year-old right now.
And it would be totally appropriate.
Totally appropriate. It's, I don't know, I feel like there was something there. I was seeing from the pattern and the keys, like, utopian, minimalist, futuristic look or something really, you know, clean. And then she basically was like, I ran out of time. I'm just going to make a skirt so she doesn't go down the runway naked.
And it shows.
Yeah.
Oh, so sad, Lindsay. So then we have this construction coming to us from Candace. This is the piece I mentioned earlier. It kind of looked a little bit like licorice when she was first putting together. And my first thoughts was Siri. Or I feel like if Siri was in life form, this would be the embodiment of Siri. Siri freaks me out. I actually never use Siri because I feel like I watched iRobot a little bit too many times. But I could see this as like a cyborg, space. We've said flight attendants a lot this season. A space flight attendant. It was well constructed, though. I will give her that. It was well constructed. I do like the colors that she used, but I think of robots.
Yeah, I put like Alien Space Warrior. You know, like in the movie Alien, though, they have the texture, kind of the black texture, and I really like the lines and everything. I really like her aesthetic because it's pretty close to mine, so I'm always going to be a fan of Candace. And I love the styling. I think it's like just super classic.
On point.
Yeah.
Styling was great for this one. She really knows how to create a whole look, which is great. So then this one came to us from Lori. I thought it was a little cute, little flirty look. I'm really happy that she went back and finished the skirt with paint. The bottom of it, that looked like that was originally just the mouse pads as they were, because it completely upgraded this look for me. I, at first, wasn't so sure about it, but when it walked down the runway, I thought that's really wearable. I mean, I wouldn't wear it, but I can think of people who would wear the skirt. The top, not so much, but it completes the look.
That's funny, because I like the top and I don't love the skirt. I really like the paint addition to it, too. The technique looks a lot more expensive and interesting, but it kind of looks like tires, so it makes me just feel like she's wearing tires on her waist.
It's so funny.
And the band, like, where the placement is, it's not flattering on the model. And the top really isn't either, but I like the idea behind it. I feel like it's a really interesting silhouette shape that I've never seen, and you're working with mouse pads, so and the skirt is a little bit different too, but I don't like how it fits or how it looks.
True construction issues.
This was a better like idea, exercise in creativity than the end result, I think, for her. And maybe I just like Lori and I want her to do well, so I'm like being easy on her, but
yeah, but I mean, she ended up being safe. Well, I'll just say that now, so it was okay. She's done better. Ooh, this one was one of my favorites, if not my favorite. This one came to us from Kelly, and it was so freaking detailed. My first thoughts were favorite, expensive, and materials, because you look at this dress and it could be made out of anything. There's nothing that really indicates that this is an unconventional material. I was just thinking it looks so nice and like super expensive. Like, I probably couldn't afford it right now, but give me like 10 years. Totally. Just put it on layaway now for me.
I love anything that looks space age and like futuristic, but to me this actually looks really high end. Because when you have a high end dress and they like bead it or whatever, a high end dress is 360 degrees. It's like all the way around, as opposed to like taking a piece of fabric with beads and having seams in it and, sewing it together would be like a cheap, prom dress or whatever. Okay. And to me, she made the dress, then she placed everything on it perfectly. So you can get a better design when you're placing each piece like that.
Right.
And she had the vision from the very start. This looks like something just really, really expensive to me. And I could see it in Marie Claire. I could see it in Vogue. Like, I could see it in any magazine. Like,
I could see it on my body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, for you guys, just a reminder, this was made out of the pipes, the tubing that we saw earlier. But touche. That was a great piece from Kelly. And it also, I won't spill the beans now, but she did make it to the top. And this one, it didn't make it to the top, but it ended up being safe. It came to us from Marlene, and it was a very strong look. She also had immunity from last week, so she was going wild with her idea. And what did I put for this one? For hers, I put strong and a little androgynous. More so just because of the overall look. She was very smart about the styling, but it still really wasn't one of my favorites, but I did appreciate she went out of the box.
Yeah, this was probably one of my favorites. It just looks so dark in detail, and the styling of the model. Like, this reminds me of like some kind of dark, mysterious movie where there's like a fallen angel or like a person that turns into a raven or something.
Oh yeah.
Like the wires look like feathers to me, and it looks kind of deconstructed and dark, and just all these seams at the bottom. It looks like it could have been haphazard, but it makes total sense to me.
I could see Lady Gaga wearing this back in her more, whimsical, more flamboyant days. Yeah, good look from Marlene. She's definitely stepped it up in the past few episodes as far as her creativity and the risk she's willing to take. So we applaud her because now she stands out for more than just being really bubbly and energetic. So next up, we have a piece that you will see shortly. And we will detail it. Because so far we've talked about swap nails and Edmonds. Oh, JK, guys, we're done. See, because we had Jake leave early, it just throws off everything. It's always a question for me when someone decides to leave on their own, whether they decide to, make it a bye week and everyone's safe, or if they still continue to cut someone. Like, I wasn't sure what was going to happen for this episode.
Yeah, they can pretty much do whatever they want. Like, on my season, we had one episode, nobody went home. And then one episode, 2 people went home.
Oh, wow.
So they can it's pretty much just up to the judges, like, whatever they feel is fair at the time. So, I mean, maybe if they thought everyone deserved to stay, it would have been a bit different story. But, honestly, unfortunate for Joseph.
Didn't make it.
But I think he kind of just proved that he deserved to go home on that dress.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. I could argue that Lindsay's wasn't that, was on an even playing field with him a little bit, but I guess it's kind of like, we've been telling you your dresses are too maternity, and now you made it more sexy, but you still didn't make anything that great. Well, when are you going to learn?
On a creative challenge with uncommissioned materials.
Right, you completely missed the boat here.
Yeah.
At least with Lindsay and Swapnil, they attempted something creative. The execution wasn't great, but they attempted. His was kind of like, well, this is hot. Let me put this together.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. And sometimes, you lose your head because you're working so many hours and it's, fierce competition and, you're tired, you're stressed. It's tough to just go in there and kind of keep your wits about you.
Right. It looks tough. I can't even imagine, especially now that they've been going for so long and they're getting closer to the finish line, being able to show at Fashion Week. But Joseph went home and the winner was Kelly. Yay! Was so excited.
Kelly really deserved it. She put so much work into it and she knew from the first second what she was going to do, and it was clear and concise, and she totally edited.
Right, toned it all the way down, which is a huge step for Kelly. And she proved she's more than just Kelly from the deli, which she kept saying all so long. Thought that was the cutest thing because she's self-taught. She is really, a pure creative because she didn't go to school for this. She really just, inherently has this gift that she's been showing us all season long, and she won. And she's going to send me that dress in the mail, right? But yeah, that was it for this episode. I hope that the energy picks up in the future episodes to come because it just looked like everyone was spent.
Yeah, they needed a day off or a 2-day challenge at least. I always think for unconventional materials, you need 2 days to make something really awesome. It's just that little bit of extra time to make it extra special, I think would be worth it.
Right. And so, guys, we are totally going to make our next episode extra special because this one was super special, even though we were missing our lovely co-hosts, Amanda and Stephanie, but they'll be back with us next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can definitely keep up with me online at VivaciouslyViv on Instagram and Twitter, and also at vivaciouslyvivian.com.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Uberreste.
Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned next week, and we'll see you guys later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.